Welcome to the Mays MasterCast. I am your host, Ben Wiggins, and I am joined this morning by Dede Nwanguma. Dede, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
It's great. I'm great. It's good to have you here. So you are a current student in the Mays full-time MBA program. Tell me a little bit, before we launch into everything, tell me just a little bit about what your MBA experience has been like so far.
So far, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Lots of highs, some lows, but overall, it's been a great experience, in my opinion, yeah.
One of the highs was a significant success in this year's Venture Challenge. Your team placed second overall. Talk a little bit about that. What was that experience like?
I loved Venture Challenge. I worked with two other second years, Alistair and Stephen Lawson. And so given that we were only a 3-person team, I think we were seen as possibly underdogs because we had so few of us. But I think that ultimately worked in our advantage just because it's easier to coordinate with 3 people than it is to coordinate with 4 or 5. And so I think our experience from start to finish wasn't as bumpy as what I think is typically experienced in Venture Challenge. We worked really well together. I think Alistair and Stephen are great teammates, and public speaking is not their weakness, if that is to say the least. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that's more of my fear. And so I think that they did a great job working with me in the beginning, where I had some reservations or I was a little bit more shy, and we practiced a ton. And they were very patient, very, very kind about it. And then I think we just balanced each other out really well. And I think we ended up at the end when we presented, there was a lot of confidence from all 3 of us in the room. And I think that really helped to our advantage. That's
great. Any tips for future MBA students, whether they're in a smaller group or in a larger group?
As far as Venture Challenge?
Yes.
Be patient, be open, lots of communication. I think that's for any team in general, not just for Venture Challenge, but communication goes a long way. And the more you work together and help build each other up as far as that confidence level, I think the better your outcome will be.
I'm totally with you on both the communication and building each other up. It makes, I think a lot of people, I think one of our failures sometimes in business is to think that business is a zero-sum game. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. It's definitely not true in interpersonal communication when you compliment someone else. Something I realized about people is that you can discover what's important to a person and the kind of person that they want to be by the compliments they pay.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, so let's jump into our icebreaker question that we ask of all of our guests. What is your favorite superpower?
First of all, I watch a lot of movies, so I can think of a ton that I would want to have. But I think right now, I would say my favorite would be telepathy, the ability to read minds. That's a powerful superpower. So I think I would want to know what people are thinking at all times, and then choose whether or not I want to, take advantage of that. But for the most part, I think it would just be fun to see what are people thinking versus what they're saying, and just, getting to know people in that way.
It's funny you say that, because our guests who have listened to the teaser episode will know telepathy would be my choice
really?
Too. Yes.
See, do you watch a lot of Marvel movies?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. I finally got to Infinity War last week.
How'd you feel?
Well, I'm broken, I guess.
Really?
Broken inside. But not in a bad way. The point of movies is to make us feel things, mm-hmm. and not always to make us feel good things.
Sure.
We want to, I think one of the reasons we watch movies and TV, read books, mm-hmm. is to explore our emotional horizons, mm-hmm. I guess, so to speak, and to push our boundaries and to feel things that we haven't felt before. And that can be an awkward thing for me sometimes, because I'm not a feeler by nature. Mm-hmm. I'm more of a thinker. But movies and TV make me feel things, and sometimes that's uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
So at the end of that film, I won't offer any spoilers. Although I think if you haven't seen Infinity War at this point, I feel like I'm the last horse across the line. So I feel like we probably could spoil it, but I'm not going to. But I will say things get dark in certain places in that film. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes.
So how did you feel?
I'm very similar to how you feel. So I feel like I'm a little bit of a feeler, but it's just I'm awkward. I'm an emotionally awkward person. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I express myself through movies a lot, like you said. Mm-hmm. Infinity War, I feel it didn't make me as sad as I thought it would. Because I heard a lot about it, and so I was kind of preparing to be a little bit depressed afterwards. But
that makes sense.
It wasn't as bad. I think there's if you think that that's the end and all the people that I'm not going to spoil it, but
Right.
if you think that's the end, I feel like you haven't watched a ton of Marvel movies. I feel like there's a lot going on that are left unsaid. Like there's a lot of cliffhangers in that movie.
Sure.
So I wasn't sad.
Definitely. I get that. Now, so you said something that fascinated me a second ago. You mentioned that you're an emotionally awkward person. So one of the things that I feel that female business people, that women in business, one of the challenges that they have to deal with that in a way that men do not is I feel like there are all of these extra expectations that are applied to women in business. You don't just have to be good at your job. You have to be good at your job and you have to do this and you have to do that. Or you're thought of as either soft or a B word or there's just all these other things that you have to be aware of. Has that been your experience? And what are some of the challenges that you've faced being a woman in a male-dominated field?
Oh, yeah. I think all of what you said is true. My personal challenge is finding the balance between knowing when it's okay to be a little bit soft and a little bit more vulnerable, but at the same time, knowing when you don't need to be that way. And so I think that's been a lifelong challenge of mine, but especially since entering into the MBA program and then even into the workforce this summer, even a little bit before I came into the MBA program, I think that's always been a little bit of a challenge, just finding that balance. So like, you don't want to come off like a B word. Sometimes it's required. Sometimes it's okay. And you can be a little bit tough and sometimes people need tough love. But then I think other times having that human side, I think influences people just a little bit better than what the opposite would do.
So if you have to err one way or the other, just from what you just said, it sounds like you would rather err toward the softer side and being more emotionally intelligent and more emotionally aware of people. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, emotional intelligence is important for anybody, not male or female. Sure. But I think as I'm getting older, I think I'm learning to appreciate that side a little bit more. But naturally, I do sway in the opposite direction.
Right.
Yeah.
So now your competitive side comes out on, has come out in terms of athletics as well. You were a talented athlete for the UTA Mavericks. How has that influenced you as a business person? Basketball's influenced me in many ways. I think I've learned to appreciate that the older I get, as far as discipline, accountability, responsibility, and just working with people and caring about people. All of those are the most important lessons that I've still implement in the business world. So when you're on teams, it's not just about you. And I think if you haven't worked on teams, or maybe, I don't know, whatever your experiences are leading up to when you're working in the real world, I think people tend to think about me first and what I need, what I want. And that's the biggest mistake I think that a lot of people make. So working with teams and being on sports, I realize it's not just about you. And I think you get to the end, your goal a lot quicker when you think outside of yourself, not even just looking at the big picture for the company, but looking at the big picture for your team. Your results are a lot better that way. And then as far as like that accountability aspect, that's important. It's just when you make mistakes, own it. When you do something great, it's okay to, congratulate yourself a little bit sometimes. So I think it's just that a little bit of both of those help me in the real world. One of the things I love about basketball is you can learn, it's another area where you can learn so much about someone just by watching the decisions they make. And it's especially true in the macro sense, like when you get to, at the pro level, for example, when you get to watch the arc of someone's career and watch how the decisions that they make change over time. Bill Walton said something once, the great basketball player said, the highest level of basketball, this is in Bill Simmons' book of basketball, Bill Walton said, the highest level of basketball, the highest level of anything really, comes down to one question. Can you make the choice that your happiness will come from someone else's success? And knowing how Bill Walton's career unfolded and being, basically the greatest sixth man of all time on Larry Bird's Celtics in the 86 Celtics, maybe the greatest team ever. It's a fascinating thing. No, that's deep. It's real. I think I remember when we first started at Mays and during MBA Core, I think it was either Shannon or Amber that said, everybody in this room, you all came from different backgrounds, but you were all stars. And coming into a place where you have all stars or all type A people, not everyone's going to be the rock star. Sometimes you have to sit back and be a role player. And can you be okay with that? Can you let someone else shine, but still do that in a way that is constructive for everyone? Can you
be happy for someone else and be happy for your team and not just think about yourself. And I think that's real, that's deep. And I think that's what you learn from sports is, can you be a role player?
Has it been your experience that the best leaders are the ones who are most able to find ways to serve the other members of the team?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think back in college at UTA, just a lot of, you have obvious leaders like the captains. That's obvious. That's a given. Mm-hmm. But what you do notice when you look closely is the people that don't necessarily have those titles or the people that aren't necessarily in the spotlight are the ones that are actually the most influential and the most impactful on the team. And so it's just silent heroes.
So let's zoom out for a second. Let's go broad with this advice. What would you tell someone coming into an MBA program? It could be something related to that, or it could be something different. An incoming student, what advice would you have for them?
Based on my experience is get out of your comfort zone and don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, if that makes sense. Because everybody knows that everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to push their limits, but very few actually do. And so I think coming into the MBA program, when you have those opportunities to do something that you wouldn't normally do, or you get presented with an opportunity that you would normally turn down, I think say yes and just be open to it and embrace it. Don't run away from it. Sure.
What was the way that you got out of your comfort zone?
Oh, Lord, there's a lot of ways. I think starting from Krychek's class, Stand and Delivers, where normally I'm nervous when it comes to public speaking in general, but doing it on the fly is even scarier. So I think that was out of my comfort zone, and you have to volunteer for that. He doesn't pick you. So again, that's getting out of your comfort zone. Volunteer to do those things. I think another aspect was case competitions. Working with teams isn't a problem. That's something easy for me, but it's being able to work on a project that's somewhat, it could be heavy, it could be light, depending on what the project is, but in a time limited or time sensitive space, and then be comfortable stepping out in a stage or in a setting and presenting to judges that have tons of experience above you and are critiquing you and judging you, and being able to present yourself confidently. That was out of my comfort zone as well. So I think all of these little opportunities, obviously related to public speaking, and being able to really just say, I can do it. Yes, I'll do it. I think that was a lot of the opportunities that I had in the program that I stepped outside of my comfort zone. It paid off. I feel like all those opportunities led up to Venture Challenge. All those opportunities led up to my summer internship. If I hadn't said yes to all of those situations and all those moments, I don't think I would have been as comfortable in the end.
So tell us a little bit about that summer internship. You were an associate brand manager intern at Kimberly-Clark. Mm-hmm. Your LinkedIn says you identified new innovative ideas to drive brand growth based on analysis and long-term vision that was predicted to increase share of a $6 billion brand by 4%. Mm-hmm. This was all done with senior leadership. So tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah. My summer internship was centered around brand management. So it was different. It was challenging, but it was so much fun. I worked with not only my specific brand team, I was on Huggies diapers, which is something that was entirely new for me just because I have never shopped for diapers. I've never walked down the diaper aisle intentionally. So being able to really embrace that this summer, working with the team, working with executives to come up with 3 recommendations on how they can grow share in that diaper space. And that was part of my first project. The second project was centered on hospitals. So pretty much it was open-ended to where they were just like, come up with ideas. What can we do? We know that this space is declining. So how can we stand out? What can we do that's different than what we haven't done? And so really embracing that. And at some point, I very few people know this story, but my team, but I actually bought a fake pregnant belly over the summer to really embrace my project, because I felt like, I don't know. I don't have a child, so I don't really feel connected. So I bought that fake belly. I walked around Walmart one weekend shopping for diapers and putting myself in the space of what an expectant mom would feel. I don't think it was as realistic as what the true experience would be, but it helped me connect to my project more. And I think that's what ultimately helped me present my project in the end. And I really was connected to it. I really felt that passion. And I got a lot of compliments from senior leadership from my brand team. In the end, it wasn't just about my project. It wasn't about the recommendations, but they said like they felt my passion. They felt I would truly care and I was connected, and they were right. So
did you have a breakthrough moment, like when you were walking around Walmart with the belly on and so forth? What was the biggest inspiration that came into your mind during that process?
It was the emotional aspect. So really having that fake belly, which number one, I can only imagine what it's really like. It was really hard to find clothes that would fit my belly because obviously for reasons that are obvious, but walking down that aisle, I felt like it was overwhelming. It was very confusing. I was hot. So like, I felt like this is a lot to deal with. There's a real problem here, not just with my brand, but just in the category as a whole. And I remember coming back and talking about that with my manager and saying, the diaper aisle is very confusing. Like when you're looking at different brands, whether it's our brand or others, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what sizes are. I don't know what's going on. And so whenever we talked about it, he was like, no, you're right. He's like, that is a problem. It's a problem in the category and it's a problem for us. And I actually ended up speaking on a project that was currently going on that I wasn't intentionally a part of. And that was redesigning the entire package of diapers for that specific reason, saying that we know that this is a problem in the category, but we're focused on what can Huggies do. We're redesigning our packages to make it easier for mom. And so you touch on something that I initially wasn't even supposed to be a part of. And so I thought that was really cool. And I got to be a part of that and seeing that unfold, which will be at the end of the year. Like I got to be a part of that. I sat in on those meetings. I saw the design team make a lot of those packaging designs. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So from your internship, what do you think was the most important thing, the most important counterintuitive thing that you learned? Something that you wouldn't have thought to be true from your internship or from your first year in the program? Biggest counterintuitive truth that you learned, something you would not have expected? Something
I wouldn't have expected. It's something that, it's not necessarily unexpected, but something that really, really rang true for me was how important it is to know yourself. And I think this summer I learned a lot about myself in terms of it's okay to be you. It's okay to be true to you. And I think your confidence comes from being yourself and standing firm in that. So not necessarily just like the networking aspect and talking to people and getting to know people, but I felt like I was more confident in the end. I was able to present my project in the end. I came up with those ideas in the end because I stayed true to myself. And I thought, what do I think? What would I do? And then not necessarily only what I think, but talking to people and genuinely caring about what is your opinion on this situation? What's your opinion on my recommendations? And really actually taking the time to understand like from their point of view, what they were giving to me and accepting that feedback. Not always implementing it, but still, it's the fact that I genuinely cared about what was going on around me. I genuinely cared about my own thoughts. And I thought what I had to say was important. So I think if I hadn't have done that, if I second guessed myself, if I went in being something I'm not, trying to be a know-it-all, trying to be an all-star in a space that I know nothing about, I don't think any of that would have happened in the end.
I agree with what you said a second ago about hearing the feedback and then sometimes saying, I understand what you're saying and I'm going to keep doing things the way that I have been doing them. There are times when it's important to hear all feedback well, but I'm with you in that sometimes I think real maturity comes from when we can hear it and hear it for what it is and then occasionally say, I respect that, but I disagree.
Exactly.
So what do you plan to do after graduation and how do you feel your internship and your first year and all these things that you've learned? How do you feel that will help prepare you for what you're going to be doing?
So after graduation, I plan to pursue my career in brand management. So similar to my internship, I want to go in that direction full time. I realized I found my passion. I know what I want to do. And so I was already confident in brand management before my internship, but during the summer, it really reinforced that this is what I meant to do. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what I love doing. So I think right after we have recruiting season coming up next month. So again, it's pursuing associate brand management positions in CPG. I'm open to other industries, but I think that that's really where my heart is. And so after graduation, I just plan on staying in that direction, staying that course. So yeah.
That's fantastic. How would you, if you had to rejuvenate a brand that maybe wasn't doing so well, where would you start?
Well, if I had to rejuvenate a brand, I don't want to call anyone out, but I would say in KC, there was one brand that wasn't directly connected to my brand, but Kleenex used to have these Go Anywhere packs that they discontinued. And I thought that they were a fantastic idea and I love them. And during the summer when I went out of my way to interview a couple of expectant parents and professionals at hospitals, I I remember like 3 or 4 people mentioning our Kleenex Go Anywhere packs, and they were saying like, I can't find them anywhere. They used to be at Target and I don't know where they are, but I loved them. And I thought in my head, like, I know I love them too. And you guys felt the same way, but yet they were discontinued. And so I think if I could bring back any brand or any product, that would be the product that I would throw in there as let's bring that back.
Interesting. Yeah. I wonder why that was. I have no idea why it was discontinued, but
I know. I hinted at it. One of my recommendations was inspired by Kleenex Go Anywhere packs. I mentioned that, so I threw hints out there. So,
what industry do you believe has the most potential for growth right now?
What industry has most potential for growth? To say tech would be obvious. I know CPG's struggling right now, but I think if companies within that space were to make a few adjustments, I know even with e-commerce coming up with private label being the huge competitor right now, I think there is still opportunities to pivot and succeed. I don't think a lot of people have the right mindset, because I noticed that not just within my internship, I know it's elsewhere too. A lot of companies where there are people jumping ship because they feel like, well, CPG's dying and there's no way we can win against Amazon. There's no way we can win against private label with Costco and everything like that. And so a lot of people are running out, but I think that it's not necessarily something to fear. I think it's a way, if you pivot and you make the right decision, I think you can still succeed even in CPG.
That's great. Yeah. Let's move to some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So quick answers. What do you consider your most valuable failure?
My most valuable failure? This isn't even rapid fire because I'm thinking.
Sure, take your time.
Most valuable failure. I would say it's going to be a little bit private, but first semester here in the program, my first team broke up. I think that was my most valuable failure because I think that's something that I don't think has happened really within the program. So it was a big deal and it was really awkward and a lot of happened from that. But I think what brought me to where I am now was still thinking that I never wanted that to happen again. And what were the mistakes that were made that I could do differently moving forward with every team I'm ever on?
So I'm going to push you a little bit, even though this is a rapid fire question. Mm-hmm. So were there any mistakes that you made that you felt were particularly important to learn from in that process?
Course. It's the communication aspect. So I think when I was talking about being receptive to what people have to say, and you can choose whether or not you want to do something about it, but still being open and always listening to different point of views, I wish I would have did that more because I think that would have been important to change the direction of where we were headed. We could have still broken up in the end. We could have stayed together. I don't know. We'll never know. But being more open and just going the extra mile to really, really like exhaust every effort to like work things out, communicate, understand each other. Yeah.
What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
Biggest misconception is probably I'm aggressive. Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with when I talked about sometimes I can come off not as vulnerable as what people would like. Okay. And I think also too, it's an appearance thing. I'm 6'2". And when I'm thinking, especially my thinking face, I'm usually not smiling. And so I think I look a lot more aggressive and meaner than I actually am. And so, yeah.
I struggle with resting bro face sometimes.
Yeah.
If you could have anyone as a mentor for one day, who would it be?
Oh, this is a very basic answer, but Beyonce.
Oh.
I really would. Just because, well, not only is she a fellow Virgo, but she works hard, man. Like, her hustle is strong.
No question.
So I'd want to shadow her for a day. Yeah.
When you finish here at Texas A&M, what will be your fondest memory of everything that's happened so far? My
fondest memory, I think, obvious Venture Challenge. I loved that experience so much. I love my team so much when I worked with them. And then just the random moments in the hallway, if that makes sense. So not one particular memory, but just laughing in the hallways, like with me and my friends, like just, we wouldn't even say anything to each other. We would do like random dances. We'd high five in between classes. Like there wasn't any preliminary conversation. We would just like walk up and say like, hey girl, and then like slap, or like the guys would be like, oh, what's up? And we would just like do shimmies. It's so weird and awkward. It doesn't make sense. But just those moments of like laughing in between classes.
My team got a lot of opportunity for random discussions in the hallways at Venture Challenge because we were eliminated in the first cut. So.
Yeah.
So let's close with some good bull. Just an opportunity to recognize someone else for something great that they've done anytime recently. Do you have any good bull for anybody?
Let's see. Good bulls, I would say automatically Ryan Hubbard. He's one of the second years. I think the effort that he puts in including everyone, not only from tailgates to games to happy hours, but he really genuinely cares and he wants everybody to have a good time. And so he puts a lot of effort in bringing everyone together. And I think along with that would be Hudson Dunn. He's another second year. He's really, really on a mission to make sure that first years feel included. So it's not just about us, but he wants everyone to have a good time. He wants the first years to feel like we're there for them, that we're mentoring them. And he keeps us all accountable. So he'll message people from time to time and say, hey, are you going to this event or this event? The first years need to see us. The first years need to talk to us. Make sure you're there. So
have you guys gotten into your capstone project for the final semester yet?
Yeah,
How far are you into it?
A few days. So we had our first meeting last week. And so we were given our projects. We were given some of our roles, responsibilities, and we know the timelines and deliverables. I think it's kickstarting this week. So starting today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That'll be a great experience.
Yes.
So, who's your client?
Oh, Agrigecko is my client.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, I guess that closes us out for today. So, Dede, thanks so much for your time. It's really been fun talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
All right. That'll close us out. And today's episode has been brought to you by Huggies, the best diapers in the business. Today, give your child a Huggy.
Oh, yeah.
Good job. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to stay up to date on our latest videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. If you're in a rush or on the road, you can still join us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to learn more about us or our guests, please visit our website at mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Also, please check out Mays Business School's academic programs. They're the sponsors of our show, and you can find them in the description. Thanks, and gig 'em.